Once upon a time, there was a man who played Speed Duels. This man did not want to play meta. This man simply wanted the spice. Hey Legacy community, it's Terra Master and welcome to episode 2 of Show Me the Spice. In the last episode of Show Me the Spice, I showed you a spicy Jirak monster stealing deck and I showed you that it could beat Moth. And today, we go to the other meta deck. The stronger meta deck, most people would say, including me. It is Inner Conflict Yugioh. And as further proof that this spicy deck I have for you today can beat Inner Conflict Yugioh, my opponent is one of the best speed duel players in the community, and that is Bylot. Bylot has been featured on this channel before because he has topped in several tournaments, as well as he has won a speed duel league to win a box, which is what this match was a part of. Anyway, let's get right into the match so I can show off the deck I have here to counter Inner Conflict Yugioh. Here we go. As I could not win the rock, paper, scissors, showing a lack of skill, I lost that, so I have to go first. However, going first with this deck is not all that bad because, as you can see right off the bat, showing you the spice, it's viral infection, it's haunted shrine, it's zombies, it's viral despair. That's right, we brought it back. And I do start off with discarding one, and here's one of the major differences in how the deck needs to run if you want to compete with it in the current meta. And that is, you have to get rid of your opponent's spells first, because a lot of decks will run, especially conflict decks, will run Inner Conflict as their, not Inner Conflict, that's their skill. They will run Offerings to the Doomed as their only spell card. So the more offerings you can get rid of and stop them from drawing, the less outs they have against your 3000 defense Despair from the Dark. And I only discarded one card there because any of these cards I did not feel good discarding, even the Gentlemander, because then your Zombina can just get taken and tributed, and then you have absolutely no backup plan. So what I'm going to do instead is just activate Supply Squad and pass. Here's one of the cool combos that this deck can now do, is if you get attacked, your opponent attacks, you can summon that Gentlemander, and then when it's destroyed, you get to draw a card off of your Supply Squad. Here it comes. I'm going to show you that play right now. He attacks with Command Knight. He is going to go ahead and run over that Gentlemander, and I'm going to get to draw a card. Absolutely insane. He set a Zoma and an Offering, so he did grab an Offering, so he does have one out to one of my monsters without having to kill it by battle. However, the good news here is that I did draw another Haunted Shrine, so I can go ahead and take out that third Offerings. So that way, see, even though he drew one, he had to draw it within the first 2 turns of the duel for me to not have milled it already, as I'm pretty sure I'm going to have an option to mill again next turn, unless he just puts me in a really bad spot. Now here, I chose to set Zombina face down only because I'm afraid of the Inner Conflict, right? So here, if he Inner Conflicts and I have Eudoria, I lose. I have nothing. But if he Inner Conflicts and tribute Zombina, then I have Haunted Shrine in my graveyard, which I can use. And that's exactly what's about to happen. Inner Conflict, pay half, tribute Zombina, summon Yugioh. Here goes that Shrine, graveyard effect, summon Zombina. He's going to Offering Zombina. I get to use Supply Squad to draw a card, as Supply Squad triggers even if the monster is destroyed by card effect. And that's it. That is his one copy of Offerings that he was going to get out of that gone. And now I'm going to go ahead and use Gentlemander to block the second attack. Now, I chose not to use Zombina's effect there, which I think was actually just a misplay on my part. So, oops, sorry. So, it just goes to show you that I misplayed and I still have a decent chance to win. As here I'm going to say Supply Squad, and now I look in his graveyard, I see all 3 Offerings. I am no longer afraid of any spell cards. Nobody plays Tribute to the Doomed. There's no more spell cards that can out any of my zombies, so I'm going to start milling his monsters. Now this is really important because I learned this lesson the hard way, because one trap that Conflict can sometimes run is skill successor, and if you go ahead and hand them a skill successor in their graveyard, that's not good at all, as they can use that graveyard effect then to power up their monsters to then get over your despair that way. So you don't want to mill their traps. Another reason to mill their monsters rather than their traps is because, especially since he's already summoned Jinzo, okay? So his traps, he is locked down his own trap cards. So at this point, as long as I can block his attacks, he can't do anything against me. And just like that, I have 2 monsters blocking his 2 attackers, and I have a Haunted Shrine and a Zombina in the graveyard to block a 3rd and maybe even a 4th attack. So here goes that Gentlemander. Supply Squad will draw a card, and he will go ahead and not even attack the face down and just pass the turn over to me. I'm going to go ahead and use this again to get rid of another monster, because my plan here is to make his Jinzo lock his own traps. The only out he has to this is to tribute his own Jinzo. So I'm not even going to set this Gentlemander because it's better as a surprise hand trap anyway. Here he goes. He's going to go ahead and free up his own trap cards by tributing off that Jinzo. Now let's see why he did that. He did that because he wants to A, Dust Tornado my Supply Squad, and B, go ahead and maybe use Zoma to put on more pressure, or potentially somehow bait me into putting a Despair into attack mode and then using Zoma to win the game that way. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and use my skill again, discard that Despair that I drew, and mill another monster out of his deck. He's going to summon Gearfried and really try to put on the pressure here. However, because he did not flip up that Jinzo, his pressure is a little limited, but he does get to use that Dust Tornado. But then Eudoria goes to the graveyard, and I'm going to go ahead and kill that Gearfried since I don't want it to attack and had not attacked yet. Now, again, I don't want to kill that face down Jinzo because I really don't care about trap cards on the field. I only care about Haunted Shrine in my graveyard, and that's exactly what I did at end phase. I went ahead and put that 3000 booty out there proactively so that he can't really do anything on my turn or his turn. I think another reason you want to get it out, Despair out as soon as possible, this is another lesson I learned the hard way, is you want to give your opponent, especially once all their offerings to the Doomed are gone and their inner conflict is gone, you want to give them as low an opportunity as possible to draw into any crazy combo like double Command Knight plus Gaia, or whatever it would take to get over your Despair. Like if they have skill successor, you don't want them an opportunity to draw into that skill successor, right? Whatever it takes, you want to give them as low an opportunity as possible. And this is game 1, but after side decks have been after cards have been sided in, you want to give them as less of an opportunity as possible to DD Crow disrupt your Haunted Shrine play. Over here, I'm just going to end my turn. He's going to pick up another Dust Tornado, which does not help him unless I draw another Supply Squad. I get another Eudoria. I'm going to set it face down. Here's another thing. You can't be in too much of a rush to mill your opponent's deck out, because that can be a mistake, as you will whittle down your own resources, and if they happen to counter your 3000 defense in that case, then you're pretty much lost. So I'm keeping not 1, not 2, 3 entire backup plans in case he gets rid of my Despair. And here I'm going to draw another Despair. That is the perfect discard target. I'm going to go ahead and mill another monster off of him. There goes that Sphere Kuriboh. And at this point, he's probably looking through his deck and realizes, not looking through it, but thinking about his deck and realizes he doesn't have an out left. And that was game 1. Let's go right into game 2 here, and let's see what each of us sides in. Now, since this deck, I'll go ahead and confess right away, is specifically already built to counter inner conflict. I don't really side deck anything against an inner conflict deck like this. But let's see what he's got in store for me as far as the side deck goes. So I'm going to once again discard 2 and try to hit 2 offerings. And I do hit 2 offerings, and you see he did open one this time as well. So he drew one early on. But again, I just milled 2, so that's the only offerings I'm going to have to deal with. And once again, a very similar play here as last time, as I go ahead and use Haunted Shrine's Graveyard effect to block an attack, except this time it's not Zombina I'm bringing back, it is charging Gaia. The only major difference here is that his inner conflict is still live, and that is a little scary considering I've already used my only copy of Haunted Shrine. So my big dilemma here is, if he has Jinzo in his hand and I allow that Gaia to survive, he can just take control of my Despair and win the game right off of that. So I had to set this Zambina in defense to have a backup defense for his potential OTK play. And in addition, to take away all possible OTK plays that he could do, I'm just going to go ahead and swing into this Gaia here. However, he's going to Dust Tornado the Supply Squad first, and then he's going to, upon resolution of Dust Tornado, Offerings my Despair. Now he's going to use Inner Conflict. He's going to take Zambina, and I was absolutely terrified. Like, I was like, look, if he's going to have Dust Tornado and Offerings and Jinzo, then, I mean, you know, you just got to tip your cap and go to game 3 in that case. However, he did not. I got lucky, and his attack points only added up to 3,900. And at this point, I can tell you, I am absolutely terrified. I'm like, does this man have Nightmare Wheel? What's he doing to me? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and actually make a pretty bold play here. And now that I've seen all 3 offerings, and I've seen Inner Conflict as well, I'm really just not afraid anymore. And another reason I'm making this bold play is, first of all, I need to make my Book of Life live. And second of all, I need a target for Zambina in my graveyard. So that's why you make that bold play here. You get rid of your hand trap and you mill a monster. Now you banish that monster. You summon the Despair. And another bold play for me here is I need to take out that Gaia, because it's already at 2,300. And in case he boosts his attack points a little bit more, it could be trouble for my Despair. But wouldn't you know that that play actually ended up being huge for another reason, and that's that it lowered his life points to 1,500. So it's another thing I learned during this match. Playing this deck is you absolutely, under any circumstances, if they don't have any back row, do not be afraid to attack with Despair. Heck, even if they have back row, a lot of times, unless you're predicting a Zoma, do not be afraid to attack with Despair unless Zoma just wins the game for them, and keeping your Despair in defense is actually a better play. Like, you're not afraid of Inner Conflict being popped onto your Despair. So he's going to go ahead and use Command Knight to take out that Zambina, and here he made a little miscalculation, but as you can imagine, I don't think he had any outs left unless he sided something against the Despair anyway, because a lot of players are not siding DD Crow right now, as this deck is, as Alum Lion of Speed Duel League would say, it's off the radar of most players, so it's not something that'll be sided against. DD Crow may be sided. I did have DD Crow sided against me, but I think that's more for Relinquished rather than people are siding for any kind of zombie deck. So again, there's a lot of, like, this is really a big brain deck, at least in my opinion. Maybe I'm not, maybe I'm a lot less big brain than I think I am, but there's a lot of different, like, plays you have to make at different times, and you have to do everything perfectly according to exactly what your situation is, like how many offerings they have in the graveyard, how many cards they have in their back row, whether or not Inner Conflict has been used, etc., etc. How many Zambinas they have, you know, in their graveyard, so it means how many Zambinas they potentially could have left in their deck. All those things factor into play huge, and then obviously if you know your opponent's deck, you got to think about whether or not you've seen things like Skill Successor or other attack point boosting cards. Maybe somebody used Crazy and runs Bashing Shield. So just those are all the things to look out for. So I mean, the basic strategy of the deck is just to, your Despair is stronger than any of their monsters, at least standalone, right? So once you take care of their outs, their primary outs to your Despair, which are Offerings to the Doomed, then you can pretty much probably dominate the game with the combination of either the Zambina loop or your Despair from the Dark. Now, one thing I might have had a chance to do, sort of, game 1, which I didn't because I missed Special Summoning Gentlemander, which is create a Gentlemander lock, is another really cool thing that this deck has the ability to sometimes pull off. And without Offerings to the Doomed, against a lot of decks in this format, there is literally no out to a Gentlemander lock. So once you mill their offerings, if you can set up that Gentlemander lock, you might pretty much just win based off of that alone, and that might actually in a lot of situations be better than setting up your Despair from the Dark. So there's 2 really good win conditions which just allow you to start milling your opponent's deck like crazy turn after turn after turn, like I was doing game 1. Anyway, as it was with the first episode, I will do a deck profile in case you want to see the full contents of this very spicy anti-conflict viral despair deck. I just wanted to quickly show off how to play it first, and before I go, I want to mention Bylot is a part of Team United We Stand. They have a YouTube channel and they have a Facebook page. Like I said, he's one of the top Speed Duel players in the world, as a lot of other members of Team United We Stand are as well. They have great content, so I will link both their YouTube page and their Facebook page in the description below, their YouTube channel I should say. So check both of those out, and until the deck profile, Terra Master out.